Welcome to The Quiet Scientist. I'm so glad you're here, wherever you are tonight, lying in bed with your blanket pulled up to your chin or curled softly into a favorite chair. Thank you for letting this story drift in with you. Tonight, you'll wander through a question that's both wonderfully peculiar and oddly comforting. What's the strangest way animals use sleep to survive? Now, sleep is something you know well, or maybe it's something you chase more than you'd like to admit, but you've probably never slept while flying or wrapped yourself in a mucus bubble to hide from danger. You've likely never trained half your brain to stay alert while the other half naps, and yet, for other creatures, these sleepy adaptations are the very things that keep them alive. It's a question that feels simple. How do animals sleep? But if you follow it far enough, it begins to unravel in such delightful directions that you may forget you ever needed an answer. I hope this story helps you unwind, maybe even fall asleep. But just in case it's a little too strange or fascinating to let you drift off right away, that's all right. You might just wake up a little more curious than you were yesterday. Before we drift too far into tonight's story, a gentle like or subscribe would mean so much. It helps the quiet scientist keep growing quietly. If you're comfortable, I'd love to know where you're listening from and what time it is where you are. This isn't medical advice, of course, just a slow, wandering reflection to carry you into rest. Let's take a deep breath in and out and settle in for the night. Imagine, for a moment, the forest at night. The moon is shy tonight, hidden behind high, feathery clouds. Leaves move in slow, whispering waves. Beneath the surface of a quiet pond, a turtle tucks its head in and stops. In the crook of a tree, a songbird closes one eye and dozes with the other still watching. Something underwater sighs bubbles. Something above glides silently through dark air, almost dreaming. You don't often think of sleep as a skill, but in nature, it is a very old one. It may not look like the kind of sleep you know, the tucked in kind, the pillow kind, the just one more minute kind, but it is sleep, and it began a very, very long time ago, long before mammals curled themselves into caves, before reptiles found warm stones, before fish, even, there was sleep. Not the human version of it, with REM cycles and circadian clocks, but something slower, stranger, a rhythm of restfulness, a pause, a pattern so old that it may have existed before the first spine. To understand how animals use sleep to survive in the weirdest, most dazzling ways, it helps to know how sleep itself survived. Imagine the earliest life forms. You can't see them clearly. They're too small, too delicate. But they live in water, in warmth, in light. They float, they drift, they pulse with life. And even in this simple world, some pattern begins to form. Light comes, light goes, and in the absence of light, something else comes too. Stillness, slowness, a time when energy is saved, a time when cells repair, a time when, even in the absence of thought, the body does something like sleeping. Some scientists think sleep began not as a brain event, but as a cellular one, a response to damage, to sunlight, to temperature, to the daily rhythms of a planet spinning beneath the sky. As life got more complicated, so did sleep. It didn't just become something animals did. It became something they needed to do in particular ways in order to survive. If you're a fish that must keep swimming to breathe, well, you find a way to sleep while swimming. If you're a bird flying across oceans, maybe you nap with one eye open. The deeper you go into this story, the more you realize animals don't just fall asleep, they adapt sleep, bend it, twist it. They've reshaped sleep into armor, camouflage, alert systems, shields, survival tactics. Sometimes it barely looks like sleep at all. Sometimes it looks like a kind of magic. You'll find creatures that doze standing up, creatures that shut down only half their brain at a time, creatures that weave protective blankets around themselves before they dream. And the most remarkable part is, these ways of sleeping aren't oddities. They're perfectly evolved responses to perfectly real dangers, to predators, to pressure, to change. Tonight, you'll travel across time zones, oceans, and species, peeking in on sleepers of all shapes and sizes. Some sleep upside down, some barely sleep at all. Some need to sleep to remember, others sleep to forget. And slowly, gently, you'll begin to see how every creature on Earth carries within it some little version of this mystery, the need to pause, to protect, to let the world soften just enough for the body to reset, even you. Because as you listen, as your own breath slows and your eyelids begin to grow heavy, you might feel the pull of that same ancient rhythm, the one that says, "It's safe now, you can let go." Let's begin with a creature who has no brain at all, and yet somehow still finds its way to sleep. Somewhere beneath shallow water, under the hush of early tides, a jellyfish drifts. Its body pulses slowly, a rhythm like breath, but not breath. There's no brain steering it, no heart beating inside, just the quiet expansion and contraction of a translucent umbrella carried by the currents of time. And yet, it sleeps. You wouldn't know it by looking. There are no eyelids to close, no nest, no blanket of moss or feathers or hollowed out log, but something inside it, perhaps something older than thought, tells it to slow down, dim its activity, and rest. This is where your journey begins tonight, not with fur or feathers, not with dreams or brainwaves, but with a creature that has none of the things you associate with sleep. No spine, no nerves, no cozy den, just a floating, flickering body that glows faintly in the dark. And even this creature needs rest. Isn't that strange? Or maybe it's not strange at all. Maybe it's something deep and universal, like gravity or music, something built into the rhythm of living. The jellyfish reminds you that sleep isn't just about dreams. It may have started long before dreaming even existed. Sleep might have begun as a survival trick, a way to conserve energy in the dark, a way to repair tiny molecular damage when the light went away, or maybe just a way to endure the long, quiet pause between one sunrise and the next. Now imagine the Earth when jellyfish were new. The planet was wilder then, stormier, thicker with volcanic breath and silvery dust. And yet, there were cycles already, night and day, warm and cool, tides rising, tides falling. The jellyfish, with its gentle drifting, had learned to listen. It listened by sleeping. Some scientists call this kind of sleep behavioral quiescence. That's a complicated way of saying it stops, it rests, it becomes still, and just like you, When the jellyfish is deprived of sleep, it becomes sluggish. It stumbles in its swimming. It takes longer to react to its world. Even without a brain, its body knows how to pause. Isn't that a little magical? The idea that sleep might not have started in your head, but in your cells? From here, you begin to see sleep not as a single invention, but as a pattern that showed up again and again across evolution, like spirals in seashells or the golden ratio in sunflowers. It's a thread that weaves through everything that lives, twisting slightly to fit each new form. A fruit fly sleeps, so does a crab, so does a fish, hovering midstream with its fins barely moving. Even plants, while they don't sleep in the same sense, have rest cycles. Their leaves droop, their inner processes slow. They've tuned themselves to the lullaby of the sun. And what about you? Your body has learned this rhythm, too, over millions of years. Your ancestors curled into caves, huts, and beds, but they also stood guard under starlight, slept in shifts, or dozed beneath trees while listening for danger. The need to sleep and the need to survive during sleep have always danced together. Sometimes one leads, sometimes the other. For animals in the wild, this dance is delicate. Sleep too deeply, and a predator may strike. Stay too awake, and your body breaks down. So evolution did something clever. It started bending sleep, adapting it, making it flexible. Some animals learned to sleep for just seconds at a time. Others divided their brains, allowing one half to rest while the other stood watch. Some creatures could even delay their sleep entirely, pushing it off until a safer moment appeared. It's like sleep itself became an instrument, not just a pause, but a tool, a shape-shifting companion to the rhythm of life. And now, as you breathe slowly in and out, you might feel that connection in your own bones. Sleep isn't something separate from survival. It is survival, shaped gently to your needs. Tonight, you'll wander through examples of this. One by one, you'll meet creatures who have mastered the art of sleeping in ways that seem impossible and yet are completely real. You'll fly with birds that sleep midair, float with whales who never fully let go. You'll shrink into insect worlds where rest is passed around like a secret handshake, and watch tiny dreamers ripple with memories they've never spoken. Each one offers a whisper of the same message. There is no one right way to rest. There are only the ways that work, the ways that keep you alive just long enough to try again the next day. And that truth, it's oddly comforting, especially here in the dark, where your own need for rest has brought you. Maybe you don't sleep like a dolphin, or like a dragonfly, or like a jellyfish floating through ancient seas, but you do sleep. You must. You always have. Your body remembers, even when your mind does not. And just like that, you begin to drift deeper into the question, not to solve it, but to feel it, to rest in it, to let it lull you. And as the jellyfish pulses softly away into the deep, you turn gently toward another strange sleeper, one that flies while sleeping, wings stretched wide, eyes half closed to the night sky. You picture the jellyfish once more, drifting through warm currents like a pale lantern underwater. There's something hypnotic about the way it moves, pulsing, pausing, pulsing again, like the slow exhale of the sea itself. It doesn't dream, At least, not in the way you understand dreaming. No scenes, no stories, no late night revisions of the day, but in its quiet way, the jellyfish tells you something important, that sleep, even without dreams, is meaningful, vital, embedded deep in the rhythms of life. It floats in and out of activity, slowing its movements during the night hours. You imagine its body dimming slightly with the setting sun, like a natural lantern winding down for rest. And when it's been awake too long, kept active by experimental nudges or artificial light, it grows clumsy, less responsive, something you might recognize from your own long nights. That sluggishness isn't just fatigue, it's proof that sleep, even a primitive, dreamless version of it, matters. The idea is so gentle and yet so powerful. Sleep doesn't require a mind. It doesn't even require a brain. It can exist as a cellular ebb, a behavioral stillness, a lull in motion that lets life continue just a little longer. The jellyfish doesn't know it's sleeping, but its body knows what to do. This kind of sleep, sometimes called behavioral quiescence, is an early ancestor of the rest you know today. It shows up in simple animals, sea anemones, flatworms, tiny transparent creatures that wriggle through warm ocean shallows. They don't fall into deep unconsciousness. They don't have dreams about flying or falling or chasing someone who turns into their dentist. But they rest. They rest in patterns, patterns shaped by light and dark, warmth and coolness, food and hunger. You can imagine these early forms of life, their routines shaped not by habit, but by survival, resting when energy runs low, conserving motion when the world grows quiet. There's something oddly soothing about that. The idea that your own need for sleep has such ancient roots, that it's long before mammals roamed or brains developed layers and folds, the sea already whispered the value of stillness. You imagine lying on a shoreline, the water barely touching your feet, the sky just beginning to turn lavender with dusk. In that moment, you feel what the jellyfish might feel, not thought, but rhythm, not mind, but tide. Sleep came before consciousness. It may even have helped create it. That's one theory, that by building in these daily periods of inactivity, life had time to repair, to clean, to grow more complex, that out of these pauses came memory, attention, maybe even dreams. It's funny to think of your own nightly rest as part of a story that began in an ocean. No bed, no sheets, no eyelids fluttering shut, just a simple creature drifting gently in the dark. And in the deep stillness of this moment, you notice your own body slowing, breathing softer, your chest rising and falling like the jellyfish bell. In a way, you are floating too, not in water, but in time. Sleep, for the jellyfish, is not a luxury. It's a quiet negotiation with survival. Drift and pause, move and rest. Always somewhere between danger and safety, energy and exhaustion. But what happens when you can't stop moving? What if your very survival depends on constant motion, gliding forward, navigating wind and air and endless blue? You start to hear the rush of air now, a distant wind that circles and lifts, the sound of feathers slicing gently through sky, and there, high above ocean waves, beyond storm clouds and sleeping forests, you begin to notice a bird, alone, steady, moving. She is a seabird, riding air currents with elegant ease. And though her eyes are open, part of her is already asleep. She is not dreaming, not yet, but she is resting, floating through the sky like the jellyfish through the water. Only now it's your own heartbeat that echoes the rhythm. The bird's name is the great frigate bird. You picture her wingspan, long and sleek, stretched like dark ribbons across the horizon. For days, sometimes weeks, she glides above the ocean without touching ground, without pausing, without landing, and somehow, while she flies, she sleeps. This is not the heavy, full bodied sleep you know. It's not the kind that takes you under and doesn't let go. It's something lighter, briefer, more precise. Her brain splits the task, half remains awake, guiding her through air currents, keeping one eye open for storms or signals. The other half dips into sleep for seconds at a time, a blink, a breath, a drift. This type of sleep is called unihemispheric slow wave sleep. It means only one side of her brain rests at a time, while the other stays alert. Dolphins do it too. So do some seals and other seabirds. It's like they've negotiated with nature. I'll sleep, but only on one side, only a little, just enough to keep going. You can almost imagine that in your own life. Those moments when you've dozed on a train, one eye still half watching your stop, when you've nodded off in a waiting room, still aware of your name being called, sleep with strings attached. But for the frigate bird, it's not occasional, it's survival. If she lands on water, she can't take off again. Her feathers aren't built for that. She must fly or fall. And so, evolution gave her a gift, the ability to sleep without letting go. It's not a deep rest. Over the course of a day, she may get just 45 minutes of true sleep, but it's enough, just enough, and you, lying still, might feel a flicker of recognition. You, too, have found ways to rest when the world doesn't stop. Maybe not in the air, maybe not while flying, but in hospital chairs, on quiet buses, between shifts. You too have learned to sleep like a survivor, and now, as the bird sails across your imagination, her wings cutting silently through dusk, you wonder what it feels like to never truly let go. You watch her disappear into the sky, and in her place, you feel the sudden stillness of the sea. Beneath the waves, another creature waits, one who sleeps in halves not for flight, but to breathe. A mammal of great size and even greater awareness. The dolphin. And as you begin to slip deeper into rest, you follow its shadow through blue water, where one half of the brain watches the world, while the other dreams beneath it. Now you're underwater, not deep, not yet, but deep enough that the surface shimmers above you like liquid glass. The light moves in ribbons here, sliding across your skin like warm silk. Around you, everything hushes, the kind of quiet that's not truly silent, but filled with softness. The occasional click, a distant pulse, a shimmering sound like far-off rain. Then you see her, the dolphin. She doesn't swim the way fish do, and she doesn't drift like jellyfish. Her body is sleek, silver gray, shaped by millions of years to move through water with intention. But tonight, she's slower, not sleepy exactly, but softened. You drift beside her. Her eye turns gently in your direction. She sees you, and also she doesn't, because only part of her is awake, just like the frigate bird above. The dolphin's brain does something marvelous, something evolution shaped with care. It sleeps one hemisphere at a time. Half her brain is resting, truly, deeply resting. The other half, it's watching, guiding, breathing. Unlike birds, dolphins can't afford to ever fall fully unconscious. They're mammals, which means they need to breathe air. They can't rely on automatic gill systems or the drifting patience of jellyfish. Every breath they take must be chosen, surfaced, earned, so the solution is elegant. Sleep in shifts, one hemisphere off, the other on, then swap, then rest again. There's no alarm clock, no bedtime, no REM cycle in the way you experience it. Just a quiet rotation of rest and awareness, cycling slowly through the night and into the day. You imagine what that must feel like, to always be half there, to be floating and thinking, breathing and dreaming, never fully surrendering to the dark. And yet, this doesn't seem like deprivation. The dolphin doesn't appear tired. Her movements are graceful, measured. You sense a kind of peace in the way she glides past coral and shadow. She can sleep while swimming, or while floating just beneath the surface. Sometimes she rests in a pod, side by side with others doing the same, a synchronized ballet of brains half asleep, and if there's danger, she can snap fully awake in a blink. No grogginess, no fumbling, just pure awareness, flipped like a light switch. There's something soothing about this balance, a reminder that rest isn't always about stillness. Sometimes it's about safety, control, the ability to pause without letting go. You begin to wonder, have you ever slept like this? Not literally, of course, but metaphorically, on those nights when your body tried to rest while your mind stayed alert, when part of you was still scanning the room, the phone, the door, when you were both inside sleep and slightly outside it, just enough to catch the sound of a baby stirring or a creak in the hallway. It's not a perfect analogy, but it helps you feel closer to the dolphin, to her quiet, adaptive way of surviving. Even more surprising, dolphins can go like this for days, taking micro rests in turns, never entirely offline. It's as if sleep, for them, is more like a rhythm than a destination. And perhaps that's something you can carry with you, Winston, too. That sleep doesn't have to look a certain way to matter. That rest isn't always a full stop. Sometimes it's a pulse, a half step, a breath between moments. You follow the dolphin a little longer, watching how easily she weaves through beams of light. Around her, others move the same way, a pods of mothers and calves, companions in this quiet ritual. There's no urgency here, no rush, just the ocean, wide and ancient, and these creatures who've learned to move through it with grace, even in their sleep. Eventually, she disappears into the blue, not fast, just drifting, calmly, a silver echo that fades gently into the current. And as you rise again, toward the surface and the sound of wind, you find yourself back on land, somewhere colder now, snow underfoot, the sky heavy with silence. You feel the weight of winter, the slow rhythm of long nights and shorter days. And there, tucked into a hollow beneath the roots of a tree, you glimpse another sleeper, not floating, not gliding, not half awake, but deeply, profoundly gone, a bear, and with her you take your next breath, long, quiet, the kind that settles deep in the chest. Because now it's time to explore a different kind of survival, not the micro sleeps of motion, not the split brain awareness of sea and sky, but the stillness of true hibernation, the kind of sleep that lasts for months, the kind where the world itself seems to pause, and you wonder what happens to a body when it decides to disappear into rest for an entire season. Snow muffles everything. It softens the world into something slow and round and quiet. Even your own footsteps, imagined now in deep drifts, make no sound. The trees creak gently, bare branches swaying in the cold hush of midwinter, and somewhere below the frostbitten surface, beneath the roots and stones, there is breathing. Barely. It is so faint, so far apart, you almost miss it. A deep inhale, a long delay, then a slow exhale, like wind through fur. You found her, the bear. She is curled into herself, nose tucked under a thick paw, her breath frosting the air around her, but not much air, not much movement. She isn't sleeping the way you know sleep. She's hibernating, something older, stranger, and much, much deeper. Her heart has slowed. Her body temperature has dropped. Her metabolism now ticks at a whisper. And her body, that great warm engine of power, has entered a state so still, it seems almost like death, but it isn't. She is not unconscious, not entirely. If disturbed, she can wake, she can react. She is aware, distantly, dreamily, of the world above. But she is also somewhere else, somewhere inside, resting not just her mind, but her whole biology. You stay with her for a while, not speaking, just listening to the slow rhythm of her breath, like the ticking of a hidden clock, one beat every 40 seconds, then a pause, then another. In this state, her body does something astonishing. It recycles, it repairs, it conserves. She doesn't eat, doesn't drink, doesn't move, and yet she does not waste away. You might wonder how that's possible, how any creature could survive without food or water for months. But this is the quiet miracle of hibernation. The body reclaims its own resources. Muscle is preserved. Bones stay strong. Fat becomes fuel. Even waste is repurposed. She is, in a sense, living entirely off memory, memory stored in the cells, energy banked in tissue, the result of a year's worth of foraging, now stretched out across a long and necessary sleep, and is not just bears, ground squirrels, hedgehogs, certain bats, even a few species of frogs and turtles. All of them have learned, in their own way, how to vanish into winter without truly leaving. For some animals, this hibernation drops their body temperatures close to freezing. Their hearts beat just a few times per minute. Their brains flicker dimly, like lanterns turned low. But bears are different. Their body temperature drops only slightly. Their heart slows, yes, but their warmth remains. They don't fall fully into torpor. They rest in something softer, a state between deep sleep and suspended animation. Scientists used to think hibernation was just extended sleep, but it's not really. Sleep and hibernation share rhythms, slow waves, energy conservation, changes in metabolism, but they're cousins, not twins. Sleep repairs the mind. Hibernation preserves the body. And yet, even in hibernation, bears show traces of sleep's signature, subtle brain activity, shifts in posture, moments when their breath deepens, Their limbs twitch, their muscles adjust like tiny frozen dreams bubbling beneath the surface. You find that image oddly beautiful, that even in this long pause, this deep, cold stillness, something flickers inside her. Something remembers how to sleep. You wonder what she dreams of, if she dreams at all. Warm rivers, berry bushes, the hum of insects returning in spring, or maybe nothing. Maybe her rest is so complete, so total, that there are no pictures, no stories, just the lull of time passing gently around her, and you too feel yourself slipping into that same rhythm, not hibernating exactly, but letting the body soften, letting the need to do dissolve for a moment into the simple act of being. There's a kind of survival in that, in letting go, in trusting that the world will still be there when you return. The bear teaches you that rest can be radical, that sleep, in its deepest form, is not weakness, but wisdom. And when spring comes, because it always does, she'll rise, slowly, with aching limbs and hollow belly, but alive, because hibernation, as strange and still as it may seem, is not just an escape. It's a plan, a quiet one, and it works. You imagine her rising one early morning, sniffing at damp soil, blinking in the new light. Her sleep will end. But for now, it protects her, holds her, and just as your thoughts begin to drift into the gentle dark, you feel a flicker of something, not as big as a bear, not as heavy, but curious, bright-eyed, and watching a lizard, small and sharp and sun-warmed, who, unlike the bear, sleeps lightly, very lightly, with just one eye closed, one eye still open to the world. She has a different strategy, a different rhythm, and in her story, you find yet another strange and wondrous way that sleep becomes survival. She lies perfectly still on a warm rock, the last sliver of afternoon sun resting along her spine like a golden ribbon. You notice how alert she looks, not tense, not frightened, just poised, balanced, as if half her body is basking in the comfort of sleep, while the other half listens carefully to the wind. You draw a little closer, and then you see it. One eye closed in gentle slumber, the other wide open, watching. The little lizard is resting, yes, but not all the way. She's an Australian bearded dragon, a reptile with ancient roots and modern cleverness. And this strange, split-eyed sleep is no accident. It's a quiet survival trick, refined by generations of lives spent sunbathing, darting, hiding, and waiting. A trick that lets her remain just alert enough to stay alive, like the dolphin and the bird. She's mastered the art of unihemispheric sleep, that remarkable way of resting where only half the brain drifts off at a time. But what makes her different is her gaze. It's fixed, unblinking, so still that you might think she's not asleep at all. But she is, at least one part of her is. Scientists used to think this type of sleep was limited to creatures that needed to swim or fly without stopping, but the lizard showed us otherwise. She doesn't fly. She doesn't swim across oceans. She just sleeps with care, always listening for the rustle of a predator, the crunch of a footstep, the shift of a shadow across dry leaves, and not just at night. Sometimes during the day, under the hot sun, she dozes lightly with one eye open to the world. If something harmless passes, she doesn't stir, but if danger creeps too close, just a little too close, the eye blinks, and she's suddenly gone. What you're witnessing isn't indecisiveness, it's calculated rest, not full retreat, not full engagement, a middle ground where vigilance and recovery hold hands. It's sleep as strategy, shaped by open plains and the twitch of unseen threats. You begin to see a pattern forming, woven like threads through the bodies of birds, dolphins, and now reptiles. That sleep is not always a surrender. Sometimes it's a negotiation. You remember the bear, asleep for months, wrapped in stillness like a thick winter coat. And now here's the lizard, never fully letting go, curled on a rock like a question half asked. What kind of sleep do you know best? Maybe you've had those nights too, one eye figuratively open, nights when you were waiting for a sound, a message, a door to open or close. You didn't sleep deeply, not quite, but you still rested, still floated, still let part of yourself drift, while the others stayed behind to stand guard. It makes you think, perhaps sleep doesn't need to be perfect to be enough. The lizard certainly doesn't waste time wondering. She's adapted beautifully. Her brain does what it must. One hemisphere sleeps, the other watches. Then they switch over and over until she's gathered just enough rest to move on. You start to wonder, how long has this ability existed? How far back does it go? Was there once a time, long before mammals and reptiles split ways, when some tiny ancestor curled in his sleep while still listening for the footsteps of giants? It's possible. Evolution doesn't always reinvent the wheel, it just repurposes it. If one creature learns to sleep smarter, to survive better, the chances are good that others will follow. And maybe, just maybe, you are still shaped by that ancient memory, that deep, quiet instinct that whispers, sleep, but not all at once. The lizard shifts slightly now, her closed eye blinking open while the other one slides shut. A slow, sleepy seesaw of awareness, and you almost smile. There's something oddly soothing about the idea that even this tiny creature, with her scales and claws and careful heart, has figured out how to rest without vanishing completely. Eventually, the sun slips behind the hills. Shadows stretch long and cool across the ground. The rock begins to lose its warmth, and the lizard, perhaps satisfied with her half naps, slips into a crack between stones and disappears. You remain there for a moment longer, your own thoughts slowing to match her rhythm, half asleep, half listening, entirely still, and in that gentle stillness, another world begins to hum, a world not above or below, but beneath, deep beneath, because now you're going underground. You shrink slowly into the soil, past roots and worms, and the soft shuffle of leaf matter. You feel the air change, drier, closer, pulsing with the tiny movements of tiny lives. And suddenly, you're surrounded. Ants, thousands of them. They march and turn and tunnel in steady streams, like tiny rivers of legs and purpose. But here, in the hush of their underground chambers, something else is happening too. Some are sleeping, others are not. They trade sleep like a secret, like currency, like something too precious for everyone to have at once. And just like that, you realize you're about to learn how sleep moves through a colony, one dream at a time. Down here, the air feels different, cooler, still. It hums with movement, but the sound is so fine, so small, You feel it more than you hear it. Beneath the soil, in a maze of delicate tunnels, chambers, and softly chewed walls, life unfolds on a miniature scale. The ants are everywhere. You can sense the rhythm in the colony, not chaotic, not panicked, just relentless, as if the ground itself has a pulse. You imagine being the size of a pinhead, stepping into this world where darkness is constant and direction is chosen by scent and vibration. There is no dawn, no dusk, only purpose. But even here, in this endless bustle of legs and antennae, sleep finds a way. Not all at once, not for long, but it's here. Watch closely. Among the marching streams and silent workers, a few have stopped, curled slightly, their limbs drawn in, their antennae resting against their heads like tiny folded arms. They are sleeping. Ants don't sleep like you. They don't stretch out or close their eyes. They don't have eyelids at all, but they pause, go still. Their bodies enter a distinct state. Their movement halts. Their antennae stop twitching. For a minute, and sometimes two, they sleep. Then they wake, rise, rejoin the colony, and someone else stops. In a colony of thousands, sleep is staggered, shared, traded. No one sounds a bedtime bell. No one keeps a schedule, and yet it works. A strange, invisible clock keeps time, not for individuals, but for the whole. You might call it a social rhythm, a communal pulse. It's as if sleep moves through the colony like a breeze, brushing against one ant, then another, then leaving them both a little more ready to carry on. And within this choreography, a peculiar kind of intelligence unfolds. Take the fire ant. Scientists have found that worker fire ants take short naps, just over a minute, dozens of times per day. In contrast, the queen sleeps much longer and less frequently, often curled in the heart of the nest, undisturbed. Her sleep is deeper, slower, a luxury earned through the labor of thousands. It sounds almost regal, but it's also deeply practical. The queen's job is to lay eggs, and to do that continuously, for years. She needs efficiency. Long rest cycles give her the power to do what no other ant can. But the workers, their rest is a balancing act. Too much sleep, and the colony suffers. Too little, and the ants break down. Their memory fades, their reactions dull. Yes, ants have memory. They remember routes, patterns, jobs, and sleep helps them keep those memories sharp. You wouldn't expect that from something so small, but here in the dark, among the soil and stones, even a creature with a brain the size of a grain of sand carries the need to rest. It humbles you, doesn't it? To realize that the drive to sleep is not about size or intelligence or comfort. It's about survival, function, flow. The ants don't sleep to escape. They sleep to continue. And perhaps that's true for you too. You've probably had days where rest felt like a burden, an interruption, a thing to postpone. But the ants remind you that even the most tireless workers need pause, and they do it beautifully. No arguments, no resistance, just a moment of stillness, accepted without guilt. Then back to the task. Renewed in this way, the colony becomes a kind of living wave, rising and resting in tiny pulses. Every ant knows its place, even if no single ant understands the whole. You begin to wonder, what if humans could sleep like this? In short, scattered moments, little bursts of stillness throughout the day, passed between people like kindness, A nap not as indulgence, but as balance. Of course, your world doesn't quite work that way, but it's a lovely thought. Still, even the ants must remain cautious. Their colony may be hidden, but it's not immune. Predators dig, floodwaters rise, accidents happen, and so their sleep remains shallow, light, ready to break at the tiniest vibration. It's a different kind of awareness than the lizard or the dolphin. There's no hemispheric switch, no singular eye open, but there is a kind of readiness, a readiness built into every twitch, every cell. The moment danger nears, the colony stirs, the dream ends, the motion returns. Yet when peace resumes, when the soil settles, the air stills, sleep returns as if it never left. That's what stays with you, long after the tunnels begin to fade, the image of rest not as something rigid or scheduled, but as something fluid, responsive, kind. And now, the earth begins to rise beneath your feet. You're climbing slowly back toward the surface. The tunnels give way to roots, the roots to rocks, and then light, warm, golden, humming with frog song. But not all frogs are singing, because now you're face to face with one of the strangest rumors in the animal kingdom. A creature once thought to never sleep at all, the bullfrog. And in this mystery, whether he truly sleeps or simply waits, you find a question too curious to ignore. You hear it before you see it. A low, rubbery croak rolls across the still surface of the pond, echoing through cattails and reeds like a slow drumbeat. It's not loud, but it carries a sound that feels both ancient and amused, as if it's been bouncing off lily pads for centuries. Then, with barely a ripple, he appears, the bullfrog, wide, green, motionless. His golden eyes sit just above the water, glassy and watchful. You watch him, he watches everything, and for a moment, it's hard to tell if he's thinking anything at all, or if he's just waiting. Still, stoic, but you're not here to watch him leap. You're here for something stranger, for decades. The bullfrog carried a rumor, one that puzzled scientists and charmed storytellers. They said he never sleeps, that he might be the only animal who stays awake all his life. How could that be? You wonder. Doesn't everything sleep? Even ants? Even jellyfish? The story began with an old study, mid-20th century, where researchers prodded bullfrogs with tiny puffs of air to see how they'd respond, day or night, active or not. The frogs flinched every time they reacted, which led to the conclusion: no change in response, no deep sleep. But the science, like the frog, was sitting quietly on something deeper, because reaction doesn't always mean wakefulness, and sleep isn't always absence. Sometimes it's simply different. More recent studies found what the old ones missed: brain waves, slow ones, the kind that drift in when creatures rest. The bullfrog does sleep, just lightly, briefly, sometimes with eyes open, sometimes so subtly that it barely looks like anything at all. You might smile at that. Of course, the bullfrog naps with his eyes open. He would. He's not trying to fool anyone. He's just built to survive in a world of sudden movements and sudden dangers. His sleep, like the lizards, like the ants, is cautious. It fits into the tiny cracks between threats. Stillness can be safety, but stillness can also be disguise. You watch him now, sitting like a lump of mud with legs, unmoving. Maybe he's awake, maybe not. Does it matter? His body is doing what it must, resting when it can, watching when it must, blinking rarely, breathing slowly. You find something comforting in that ambiguity. Not everything has to be obvious. Some things, like bullfrog sleep, resist sharp definition. They sit in the middle, half submerged. Not quite this, not quite that. Kind of like you when you're almost asleep. That dreamy in-between space where your thoughts start to slip out of order, where memories bend and logic softens. You hear the clock ticking, but forget what it means. A voice in your mind says something nonsensical, and you nod as if it makes perfect sense. Bullfrog territory. Maybe he lives there more often than not. It makes you wonder, how many animals have fooled us simply by looking still? How many kinds of sleep have we overlooked simply because they don't come with closed eyes and snoring? The bullfrog reminds you there's more to sleep than deepness. There's nuance, texture, a whole spectrum of restfulness that doesn't fit neatly into your human categories. And isn't that true of people too? Some sleep lightly but wake refreshed. Others dive deep and emerge groggy. Some nap in sunbeams. Some lie awake for hours and still feel oddly rested come morning. It's all valid. It's all real. Sleep isn't one thing. It's many things, shaped by need, by environment, by design, and for the bullfrog, it's shaped by the pond, a place where every ripple can signal danger, where predators slide under lily pads, like thoughts beneath consciousness, where being too relaxed might mean becoming lunch. So his version of sleep, his strange, semi-alert dozing, works. It's not restful in the way you might want rest to be, but it's restful enough. He gets by, and that, in its own way, is a kind of brilliance, because sometimes survival doesn't ask for perfection. It asks for adaptability, for cleverness, for subtlety. As the frog sinks slowly beneath the surface, vanishing without a splash, you're left with the gentle echo of his lesson. Rest doesn't have to be obvious to be real. You breathe in the warm, earthy scent of the pond. The cattails sway, the frog song fades, and in the silence that follows, something shifts. The air thickens, the light grows wavy. You're going deeper again, underwater, but not with mammals this time. Not with dolphins or whales. Now you're following scales and fins, and you're heading toward one of the oddest sleepers of all. A fish who doesn't just rest, but weaves itself a secret bed, wrapped in a blanket no one else dares touch. The water is warmer here, thicker, somehow. It moves lazily around you, like a velvet curtain swaying in a slow, silent breeze. You drift between coral towers and waving sea fans, the light above scattered into ripples that shimmer and vanish before you can catch them. Everything feels hushed. Then, through a break in the reef, you see it, a flash of color tucked between two rocks, bright blues, greens, and a hint of pink. You blink. It's not a plant. It's not a stone. It's a parrotfish. She rests without flinching, her fins still, her body hovering just above the coral bed, and around her, like something out of a sea-born fairy tale, is a glistening envelope, a cocoon, a nearly invisible sack of slime that shimmers when the light hits it just right. You look closer. Yes, she's wrapped herself in a mucus bubble, and somehow, That makes perfect sense, because in a world where even sleep can be dangerous, some creatures don't just find a safe place to rest, they make one. Every night, as the sea dims and the predators emerge from their crevices, the parrotfish begins a ritual. Slowly, methodically, she secretes a mucous membrane from her mouth. It oozes out in soft threads, then surrounds her entirely, forming a thin, sticky dome, a sleeping bag, a tent, a magic shield. It doesn't just hide her scent from lurking moray eels and night-stalking sharks. It also warns her if anything touches that delicate film, even a gentle ripple, she feels it, wakes, escapes. It's not a fortress, exactly, but it's enough. And when you think about it, it's rather sweet. There's something almost childlike about the idea of wrapping yourself in a protective bubble before bed, like tucking a blanket around your chin or building a pillow fort on a rainy afternoon. Of course, this blanket is made of mucus, and it smells, well, like the ocean. But to the parrotfish, it's comfort, it's home. You float there for a moment longer, watching the way her gills move. Slow, steady, a gentle rhythm of breath beneath the membrane. There's a peace to her, a trust in the safety she's built for herself. And what's most remarkable is that she'll do this again tomorrow night, and the next, and the next. Every evening, she spins her bubble anew, never reusing it, never skipping it, even in paradise. Sleep must be guarded. You wonder if she dreams, perhaps of swimming through clouds of plankton or rubbing against a warm reef. Or maybe she dreams of nothing at all, just drifts in that delicate in-between, buoyed by water and instinct. There's a lesson in her ritual, in the care she takes to prepare for rest. She doesn't collapse into sleep. She builds it, she makes it safe. She allows herself to let go because she's given herself permission and protection to do so. How often do you do that? How often do you prepare gently for rest rather than tumble into it? Perhaps there's wisdom in mucus, or at least in the idea of creating boundaries, not walls, but soft containers. Something that says, here, in this space, it's okay to relax. You won't be disturbed. That space might be a bed, a corner chair, a journal before sleep, a candle, a sigh, a familiar voice, the soft weight of something warm against your chest, all bubbles in their way, and like the parrotfish, maybe you need yours just as much. Eventually, her body shifts slightly. She doesn't wake, not fully, but her fins flutter, adjusting her place in the water. The bubble flexes, then settles again, whole and clear. It's hard to look away. There's something so beautiful about it. This fish wrapped in her own homemade lullaby. But the sea, like sleep, keeps moving, and you begin to drift again, upward, forward. The reef recedes. The water grows thinner. You pass other sleepers, fish tucked into holes, crabs still beneath sand, sea cucumbers half buried in the silt. And above them all, where the sea meets the sky, something else waits, something fast, feathered, never still, swifts, tiny birds who never land, who migrate across entire continents, who, if the stories are true, sleep in motion. You tilt your face to the wind. The air smells different here, high, dry, laced with cloud scent and the faint echo of beating wings. And in that wind, you hear them, 1,000 tiny hearts flying forward, eyes half closed, brains half asleep, resting not in stillness, but in movement. The sky opens wide now, boundless, pale and blue and trembling with distance. There's no edge to it, no ceiling, no wall, just a vast, gentle upwardness that stretches forever, and somewhere inside it, barely more than silhouettes flickering against the light. The swifts are flying. They move in sharp angles, quick turns, sudden bursts, but there's grace in it, a kind of chaos that knows exactly where it's going. You watch them dart and dip and rise again, never still, never landing. They don't perch, no, they don't pause. For these birds, tiny, tireless, the sky is home. They eat in the air, mate in the air, they sleep there too, high above the clouds, where no branches wait, no nests, no safe hollows, just wind and instinct, and the remarkable ability to rest without ever stopping. It feels impossible, doesn't it? But the common swift holds a record few others match. For months at a time, up to 10 in a single year, it remains airborne, never touching ground. Scientists once doubted it. Now they've measured it, tracked it, proven it, and still, it seems like magic. Because how does a creature fly while sleeping? You picture it, the flutter of wings slowing ever so slightly, the body dipping gently, eyes blinking closed for seconds at a time. Not full sleep, not deep, but something close enough. Something that lets the brain recharge in slices. Like the frigate bird, the swift uses unihemispheric slow-wave sleep, resting one side of the brain at a time. But even more impressively, the swift may sleep during glides, those long, circling ascents on warm air currents. You imagine what that feels like, to rise slowly on invisible wind, one half of the mind dozing while the other keeps watch, a bird dreaming with just one eye open, riding thermals into the dusk. It's sleep as a rhythm, threaded into movement, not separated from it. You start to wonder, have you ever felt something like that? Not flight, exactly, but motion with rest. Maybe on a long road trip, when your eyes drooped and your head bobbed to the hum of tires, while someone else took the wheel, or on a train, rocking gently past blurred scenery, your thoughts unraveling into half-formed dreams. Sleep in motion. It isn't your default, but your body understands it. And for the swift, it's not optional. It's survival. These birds migrate over thousands of miles, across oceans, deserts, mountain ranges, chasing daylight, warmth, insects. There's no time to land, no safety in pausing. Rest must happen mid-flight. It's not perfect sleep, but it's just enough. And the swifts, for all their effort, are light as a feather, literally. Their bodies are built for air, not earth. Their legs are weak, awkward. If they land, they struggle to take off again. They are born to fly and to rest while flying. It's strange, isn't it? That sleep, something you often imagine as stillness, can be embedded in movement. That it doesn't always require a bed or a nest or even gravity. It only needs space and rhythm and trust. The swift doesn't panic, doesn't collapse. It floats, accepts that sleep will come in pieces, not as a full surrender, but as brief dips into softness. You watch them now, flocks of them, spiraling up into the late afternoon light. They don't fly in tight V's like geese. They dance, swirl, paint the sky with patterns that vanish as quickly as they appear. It's hypnotic, peaceful, the way a campfire is peaceful, even though it's made of flame. And inside that fire, somewhere, the swifts sleep. You think about how many kinds of sleep you've witnessed already. Deep winter hibernation in a snowbound bear, the half-aware drifting of dolphins, the glassy-eyed pause of ants in the soil, the dreamless stillness of a jellyfish, and now the swift, a creature who finds sleep in the act of doing, not stepping away from life, but continuing through it, softer, gentler, eyes half shut to the sky. There's something beautiful in that, something you might carry with you on long days, long nights, those moments when stopping isn't possible, but slowing down is. Maybe, like the swift, you can rest in the curve of momentum. Let sleep touch you in the quiet edges of effort. Let yourself drift without completely letting go. And just as your thoughts begin to soften, to mirror the spiral of wings above, you feel a tug back down, back toward the water, but not to fish this time, not to scale or fin or feather, to something with arms and skin that can shimmer, to a creature whose sleep glows with possibility. You're sinking slowly now, beneath the surface, into deeper currents. You feel the pressure shift, the light turn blue, and in the dark, you see a flicker, a ripple of color, an octopus, asleep and dreaming. Down here, everything pulses. The sea is not quiet the way you expect quiet to be. It hums in deep tones. It sways in slow rhythms. It presses gently around you, like velvet with a heartbeat. You drift through this underwater stillness, your thoughts floating a little looser now, your breath matching the rhythm of the tide. Then you see her, curled into a den of coral and stone, her arms tucked neatly around herself like silk ribbons drawn into a knot. The octopus. She's barely moving, but not still. Her skin shivers, ripples, flares, and then changes. Color blooms across her body. Deep ink, pale sand, flashes of blue and green, then back to mottled brown. Her skin is storytelling, though no one is watching. Her body pulses with silent messages, like the flicker of dreams behind closed eyes. Because she is dreaming, scientists aren't certain what she dreams of. No one is, but they've watched her, night after night, color blooming in bursts across her skin, even while her eyes stay closed, her arms gently curled, and they've come to believe that this shifting display, this restless shimmer, is not random. It's sleep, deep sleep, maybe even REM, the same stage where humans dream their loudest. And in this watery world, REM doesn't look like flickering eyelids. It looks like a tide of colors running across a soft body, a phantom hunt, a rehearsal, a memory, a guess. You watch her more closely now. One moment, she turns jet black, the color of flight. The next, a vivid red pulses across her head, then white, then a swirling pattern of stripes, all without movement, all while wrapped in stillness. Is she dreaming of chasing, of hiding, of gliding across the ocean floor in search of food? No one knows for sure. But the flashes suggest something is happening beneath the surface, not just of her skin, but of her mind. Her brain, after all, is extraordinary. Unlike most invertebrates, the octopus has a large, complex nervous system. Most of her neurons aren't even in her brain, they're in her arms. Each one can move, taste, decide, as if her body is made of 8 semi-independent minds working in concert. And yet, when she sleeps, her whole self seems to join in. The colors don't ripple through just one arm or section, they dance across her entirely. It's as though her body is dreaming too. You float nearby, close enough to see the subtle rise and fall of her breath. Her siphon twitches slightly, like a sigh. The coral she rests in looks soft under her curled limbs, a place chosen carefully, close enough to see, far enough to feel safe, because sleep for her, as for so many, carries risk. She is not armored like a turtle, not fast like a fish. Her best defenses are camouflage, cleverness, and lightness. So when she sleeps, it must be somewhere tucked away, somewhere hidden. Even her dreams have walls, and still, her body gives itself over to sleep. The shimmering skin, the pulsing colors, the quiet, expressive chaos of her inner world spilling out across her surface. It's hard not to see beauty in it. The idea that dreaming doesn't have to be silent, that it can be luminous, that the story inside can leave footprints, even in sleep. And it makes you wonder about your own dreams. They may not be visible, not written on your skin in swirling ink, but they move you, they shape you. You wake and feel something shifted, even if you can't say why. The octopus reminds you, sleep is not just pause. It's creation, practice, reflection. In the quiet of her den, she may be testing ideas, replaying memories, assembling instincts, or she may simply be dreaming because it feels good. You like that thought? Because not all sleep has to be functional. Some sleep can be delicious, a reward, a gift, a time when the brain or the body or both dances in patterns it keeps secret from the waking world. And while she dreams, life goes on around her. Tiny shrimp skim the coral, a sea slug inches by, glowing faintly. Bubbles rise like silent thoughts. No one interrupts her, and slowly, gently, the colors fade. Her body softens back to mottled gray. Still, she is not awake, not yet, but she has gone somewhere and returned, and now you rise again. Slowly, your body still draped in the rhythm of her breath. You begin to feel something change, a shift in size, in scale, in weight, because up ahead, on the land, in the grasslands, in the heat, something enormous waits. Not dreamers, rememberers. You're walking beside one now, though walking is too small a word for it. It's an elephant, towering, wrinkled, wise, and she doesn't dream often. She barely sleeps at all. Her footsteps are nearly silent. Despite her size, she moves like a shadow, steady, deliberate, ancient. The elephant's ears flap softly in the heat, catching breezes like sails. Dust rises around her feet, then settles again, and through it all, she keeps walking, mile after mile, because that's what elephants do. They wander across savannas, through forests, along dry riverbeds, always moving, always remembering, and almost never sleeping. You would think a creature so large, so powerful, would sleep deeply, heavily, tucked beneath a baobab tree or against the flank of another elephant, safe in her size, but she doesn't. In fact, elephants are some of the lightest sleepers in the animal kingdom. They nap for just 2 hours a day, sometimes less, usually while standing and lying down. That's rare, reserved for moments when they feel truly safe, which may not happen for days. You watch her now, under a wide sky, her long lashes brushing against skin thick as bark. Her eyes close for a moment, then open again, still walking. This, it turns out, is sleep, or at least her version of it. A few slow blinks, a brief pause, standing still under the stars, letting the muscles rest, letting the mind soften, but never fully letting go. It's not because she can't sleep longer, it's because she chooses not to. For an elephant, sleep is a risk. Lying down takes effort. It exposes her belly, makes her vulnerable, and if the herd is on the move, searching for water, avoiding danger, then rest must wait. But there's something else at play here too: memory. Elephants are famous for theirs, not just because of size or myth, but because science confirms it. They remember roots, voices, landscapes. They grieve. They recognize family even after years apart. Their minds are heavy with knowledge, carried like water in a deep, still pool, and yet they barely sleep. You start to wonder how. How does a creature with such rich mental life manage with so little rest? Some researchers believe their brains have evolved to prioritize alertness over recovery. Others suggest their brief sleep might be incredibly efficient, like a deep dive instead of a long float. But maybe it's something else entirely. Maybe elephants carry their rest in different ways: in pauses, in silences, in the rhythm of walking. You think of your own life, the moments when you've had to stay awake longer than you wanted to, not because you couldn't sleep, but because someone needed you, because the road kept going, because safety wasn't guaranteed. And in those moments, maybe you too found a different kind of rest. Not the kind with dreams and pillows, but the kind where the mind grows quiet, even while the body moves, where memory walks beside you, whispering stories to keep you whole. The elephant walks that way. She stops only briefly to let her eyelids drop. A flicker, a breath, a sigh in the wind. Then she moves on, her steps pressing softly into the earth like the memory of rain. Her herd follows. Daughters, sisters, matriarchs, they move as one. Sometimes a baby dozes while walking, its trunk swinging like a sleepy pendulum. And when the time comes, when the grass is soft and the wind is kind, the herd will rest together. Not for long, but long enough. Then, as always, they rise. You watch them fade into the distance, a line of shadows stretching toward the horizon, and something in you shifts. You thought of sleep as something you do, a place you go. But for elephants, sleep is a thread woven through waking life, a whisper, a quiet that walks beside them. And maybe that's true for you. So you too. Not all rest has to look like slumber. Sometimes it's just the hush between thoughts, the stillness between words, the warmth of remembering. And now, as the night deepens and the wind slows, you feel the edges of the world soften again. The elephants disappear, their memory lingering in the dust. And in their place, something smaller emerges, something quiet, flickering just beneath your awareness. You're shrinking again, back into miniature, into the land of the tiny, where sleep still lives, just as strangely, just as vividly, in the smallest of creatures, fruit flies, worms, flecks of life you can barely see. Each one carries the rhythm of rest in their microscopic hearts. Each one proves that no creature is too small to dream. You are smaller now, much smaller, shrunk down into the soil, into leaf litter, into the folds of bark and petals where life trembles at the edge of visibility. Everything around you feels closer, more immediate. Droplets cling like globes, roots stretch like tree trunks, and the air buzzes with invisible vibrations. And within this miniature jungle, you find them, the tiniest sleepers, a fruit fly balanced delicately on a piece of rotting banana, a worm curled into damp soil, a flea paused in the shadow of a fallen leaf. They are so small you might overlook them entirely, but tonight, you notice, because even in bodies so slight they weigh less than a raindrop, the need for sleep is still there, still real, still mysterious. You hover near the fruit fly now, watching the way it shifts, then stills, its wings twitch once, then settle, the movement slows, its tiny body goes quiet. It is sleeping, just like you, just like the octopus, just like the bear. Sleep. It turns out, scales down beautifully. The fruit fly doesn't have a pillow. It doesn't close its eyes. It has none to close. But its brain, small as it is, shows the same slow wave activity that yours does when you drift off at night. And just like you, the fruit fly dreams, in its own way. Not dreams of flights or deadlines or songs it can't remember the words to, but dreams of scent, light, patterns, perhaps even motion, a whisper of memory, a flicker of experience, stored and sorted during rest. It startles you a little, the idea that even something so small needs time to step back from the world, that in this frantic, fluttering life, even the fruit fly requires pause, and it's not alone. Sleep exists all the way down. Roundworms, smaller than the comma in this sentence, exhibit what scientists call lethargus, a phase during molting when they stop moving, stop eating, stop responding. It's sleep, by another name, a tiny interlude in the middle of transformation. Even in the smallest brains, brains with just a few hundred neurons, sleep appears, shaped by hunger, by light, by rhythm. Why? You ask the question again, softer now. You've asked it many times tonight. Why would evolution carry sleep so far into creatures who live barely a day, who spend more time molting than mating? Maybe because rest isn't about complexity. Maybe it's about maintenance. Every brain, no matter how small, must clean, organize, reset, even if it only has a few thoughts to carry, even if its memories are no more than shadows of sugar or heat or air. You picture it, a tiny brain sorting its sensations, filing them into drawers made of molecules. This is light, this is food, this is danger, this can wait. The idea makes you smile, and then you think about how fragile these lives are. One wrong gust of wind, one drop of water too heavy, one missed moment of stillness. And yet, they rest. They dare to rest. They don't fight sleep. They don't curse it. They don't drink coffee to push through. They simply obey the rhythm written into their bodies. Maybe they don't have a choice, or maybe that's the point. Sleep isn't just a habit, it's a biological vote of confidence, a sign that your system trusts the world, even briefly, to carry on without you. And if a fruit fly, who only lives for days, still takes time to sleep, what does that say? That rest is not wasted time. It's required time. You think about how you measure your own sleep, in hours, in quality, in cycles. But here, in this micro world, Rest is measured in moments, in seconds, a nap against a leaf vein, a doze between sugar molecules, and the results are just as profound. Fruit flies deprived of sleep struggle to remember. Their tiny brains falter, their tasks go unfinished, their lives already short become a little more tangled. You float quietly through their world now, a world of lichen, of pollen, of moss that rises like green mountains. The sleepers are all around you, small dreams in small packages, and it's beautiful because even here, in the most unassuming corners of nature, sleep persists, not as a luxury, not as a weakness, but as a rule, a thread that binds together brains big and small, minds fast and slow. You begin to feel that thread pulling at you now, tugging softly, gently, in rhythm with your breath. You think of everything you've seen, the jellyfish pulsing in the tide, the dolphin resting one hemisphere at a time, the bear curled in her winter den, the lizard, eye open, the ants trading sleep in silence, the parrotfish wrapped in her own secret blanket, the swift dreaming mid-flight, the octopus glowing with thought, the elephant who barely stops, and now the fly, wings still, brain quiet, at peace. So many bodies, so many strategies, and yet always the same truth. Sleep matters. Size doesn't change that. Speed doesn't change that. Not even time. And now, rising slowly from the miniature, you feel yourself returning to your own scale, to your own body, your own breath. But before you land completely, one more question waits. What do all these animal dreams say about yours? About how you sleep? About what sleep is? Not just as a rhythm or a need, but as a reflection of the self. Because if sleep looks so different in other species, what does it mean in you? And how much of your own mystery still hides in the dark, behind your dreams? You're back now, full size, full weight. Your body feels like it belongs again, and yet everything around you feels slightly more fragile, as if the knowledge of those smaller sleepers still lingers just beneath your skin. You're lying on your own surface now, a bed, a couch, something familiar. Your breath has slowed, your limbs have softened, and somewhere in your chest, there's a quiet question echoing. How do you sleep? After traveling through so many shapes and sizes, so many versions of rest, you can't help but see your own slumber differently now. You close your eyes and imagine all the strange animal rhythms you've visited, the dolphin's half dreams, the bear's long pause, the swift's fleeting drift, the jellyfish's pulsing stillness, each one built for a life not like yours, and yet strangely, deeply familiar, because your sleep, like theirs, is more than rest. It's survival, it's memory, it's softness folded inside your days. You wonder how it developed in you, this nightly retreat from the waking world. In animals, you saw how sleep evolved to protect, to preserve, to adapt. In you, it became more than that. It became a ritual, a story, a cycle of thought and emotion, sensation and forgetting. You don't just sleep to conserve energy. You sleep to remember names, to process feelings, to dream. And what happens inside you while you sleep? Your brain, like the octopus, flickers with color, not on your skin, but in electrical waves. It sorts and files. It replays your day in fragments. A friend's laugh, a sharp word, the color of someone's shirt. Your memories twist, blur, reshape. It doesn't always make sense, but somehow when you wake, you're changed, a little more healed, a little more whole. Sleep is your built in therapist, your housekeeper, your editor, and your body, la flower too, transforms in sleep. Your muscles rebuild, your cells repair, your immune system recalibrates, hormones shift, bones strengthen. There is so much happening. While you are still, you think again of the parrotfish spinning her bubble before rest. You too have rituals. You dim lights, pull blankets, adjust pillows, maybe read, maybe hum, maybe simply sigh. You prepare yourself not just to stop, but to surrender, because unlike many animals, you don't sleep light, you don't stay on alert. When you truly drift off, your body goes limp, your mind dives deep, and the outside world fades to a whisper. It's trust. That's what makes it possible. The trust that you are safe enough, just for a little while, to let go. And yet, not all humans experience sleep that way. You remember those times in your own life, the nights of half sleep, when your mind wouldn't stop spinning, when you were part dolphin, part lizard, always on edge, not fully awake, not truly asleep. Those nights were survival too, and that's okay. Sleep is not always gentle. Sometimes it hides. Sometimes it shifts. Sometimes it gives you only a sliver of its fullness, but you keep reaching for it because your need for sleep is written into your genes. Just like the ants, just like the swifts, there's a tiny clock ticking in nearly every cell of your body. Circadian rhythms, they're called. They guide your temperature, your hunger, your mood, your awareness, and they whisper to you, it's time. Time to close your eyes. Time to turn inward. Time to restore. It's why, even when you ignore sleep, it never forgets you. It waits, gathers, and eventually pulls you back. And when you return to it, night after night, it welcomes you. No punishment, just silence, darkness, healing. You start to wonder now, if animals have such diverse ways of sleeping, might humans also carry more variety than we realize? The answer is yes. Some people dream vividly every night. Others, quotes, remember nothing. Some sleep in long stretches. Others wake often. Some sleep best in silence. Others need a hum, a heartbeat, a presence. There's no single way to rest. You, like the creatures you've met tonight, adapt. You find sleep in cradles, in hammocks, on floors, on planes. You sleep curled like a cat or sprawled like a bear. You nap, you doze, you drift. You are many things in sleep, and sometimes, without knowing it, you imitate the animals who've been here far longer than you, whose bodies shaped the world before you could name it. Your brain shuts down in sections. Your breathing slows. Your body cools. You twitch. You dream. You forget. You rebuild. That's the great paradox of sleep. In doing nothing, you accomplish so much. And in learning how others sleep, those with wings, with fins, with shells, with scales, you begin to see your own rest not as a flaw in the design, but as its very heart. Because if a creature as efficient as an ant still needs to pause, if a bird can nap while soaring, if an elephant sleeps 2 hours a day and still remembers everything that matters, then you too can rest however you need to. Sleep doesn't ask for perfection, only presence, and now as your own eyes grow heavier, as your body finds the shape it's been seeking all evening. You feel something rise to the surface, a quiet memory, not of a thought, but of a truth. You are an animal, too, and tonight, like all the others, sleep is coming to find you. It always does, but before it takes you completely, one last shadow waits. A question, a warning, a gentle reminder. What happens when sleep disappears? When it's stolen, disrupted, denied, when survival pushes too hard and rest begins to fray. Even animals have their limits, even you. And now you follow that unraveling thread into the place where sleep begins to fall apart. Something feels off now, not frightening, just slightly wrong. You notice it first in the edges of the air, the way it seems heavier somehow, slower, as if the night is trying to blink, but can't. The stillness around you begins to flicker, not like candlelight, more like a system under strain, something humming too long, a rhythm stretched too thin. You've entered the world without sleep, not just lack of sleep, but the long, echoing absence of it, the kind that creeps into bones and thoughts and memory like a fog that never lifts. And here, even the animals begin to falter. You've seen how they guard their rest, the bear in her cave, the parrotfish in her bubble, the ant in its paws. But what happens when that rhythm is broken? You don't need to imagine. Nature has shown you. The pigeons, for example, you watch them now, tilting on telephone wires, feathers puffed, eyes blinking slow and uneven. In studies, when deprived of sleep, their balance falters, their reactions slow. They forget the routes they've flown 100 times. Even in flight, their instincts cloud, a curve too sharp, a misjudged gust. The consequences are real. And what of the rat? Your view shifts. You're in a lab now, not a natural place, but a sterile one. 2 rats on a platform, rotating slowly above a pool of water. Every time one begins to drift, the platform turns, nudging it just enough to keep it from sleeping. It's a test, one of the oldest in sleep research, and the results are haunting. The rat deprived of sleep doesn't just get tired, it begins to fail. Its immune system crashes, its fur dulls, its weight drops despite constant eating. In just a few weeks, its body gives up. Because without sleep, survival collapses. The mind collapses too. Even in humans, the effects are swift and strange. A single sleepless night, and your memory begins to blur. Your emotions sharpen in odd places, go numb in others. Reaction times dip, judgments wobble. Keep going without sleep, and hallucinations begin. Faces shift, sounds stretch. The world itself turns elastic, unreal. You recall stories, the record-holding teen who stayed awake for 11 days, monitored in a lab, watched closely, no drugs, no stunts, just willpower, and by the end, he could barely hold a thought. He saw things that weren't there, forgot what he was saying mid-sentence, laughed at silence, cried without reason, and the strange part, he recovered. After a long, deep sleep, his mind returned, mostly, but not all due. Sleep deprivation has been used, cruelly, as a form of torture because it breaks a person without leaving marks. The mind erodes, language slips, thought becomes a blur. Even the strongest will falter when sleep is stripped away. You think again of the animals. They don't push past their limits. not by choice. Even the elephant, who sleeps so little, sleeps deeply when she finally lies down. Even the dolphin, always half alert, never skips the cycle, and the jellyfish, so old, so simple, still drifts into that pulse of rest each night. Because sleep is not optional. Not really. It is a boundary. Cross it too many times, and systems fail. Memory buckles, healing halts, life dims. You reflect on your own moments, the long nights, the deadlines, the worries that gnawed through the early hours, refusing to be silenced. And what happened to you? Maybe you forgot things, snapped at someone, left the keys in the fridge, walked into a room and couldn't remember why. Little cracks in the mirror of your mind. Sleep deprivation doesn't just make you tired, it makes you different. It changes how you see, how you think, how you feel. It blurs the boundary between real and imagined. But the worst part? You often don't notice until after, until the fog begins to lift, and you realize how far you had drifted from yourself. Even dreams, when sleep returns, feel louder, brighter, as if your brain has been waiting, stockpiling stories, rushing to unload them. Sleep deprived rats dream more intensely when allowed to rest again. Fruit flies, too. Their brains leap into REM like divers into deep water. Your brain does the same, because dreams aren't just decoration, they are repairs, and without them, something in you stays broken. You think back to the octopus, her flickering body, the riot of color dancing across her skin, that strange, private language of sleep. What happens if she can't dream? We don't know, but we suspect the answer is simple. She suffers, and so do you. That's why your body will always fight to reclaim sleep. Even when you deny it, it waits, gathers strength, and when the moment arrives, it pulls you under like a wave too strong to resist. Micro sleeps, sudden nods, lost minutes, even in motion, even mid thought. Your brain will force you to rest, if it must, because it must. And yet, you live in a world that sometimes pretends otherwise, where exhaustion is worn like a badge, where rest is postponed, downsized, squeezed into corners. You hear it all the time. I'll sleep when I'm dead. But the truth, whispered by every cell in your body, is this: if you don't sleep, you die a little anyway, slowly, quietly, invisibly. But you can come back. Sleep will take you, heal you, dream you into something whole again. And so, gently now, we leave this fragile, flickering edge, this space where rest unravels. Ahead, something softer waits. The dream itself, not just the absence of wakefulness, but the place where your mind becomes a rehearsal stage, a mirror, a map, a lantern, a place where animals and you survive by imagining. Now the world has softened again. The flickers of exhaustion and distortion fade. The wind grows quieter, the tension loosens its grip, and in its place, something stranger arrives, not darker, but more delicate. A shimmer, a veil, a doorway barely ajar. You've entered the dream, not yours, not yet, but a shared one. The collective space where sleeping minds stretch beyond the borders of their waking hours and step into something else, something imagined, something unmeasured. And the animals, they're already there. You see them all around you now, not how they are in waking life, but as echoes of themselves. The dolphin, gliding through sky instead of sea. The octopus, pulsing with thought as ink clouds bloom into stars. The parrotfish floats in a bubble of light. The bear, curled in snow, dreams in slow spirals. Even the jellyfish, who knows no brain, moves through shadows that almost remember. Each of them is dreaming, because dreams are not human inventions. They didn't arrive with language or storybooks or symbolism. They are older, deeper. Biological rehearsals passed down through time. In mammals and birds, and possibly even reptiles, dreams emerge in REM sleep. You've seen the signs: twitching muscles, rapid eye movements, brain waves that mimic wakefulness. But what they dream of, that remains a secret. Still, science gives you hints. Rats, these for instance. In one study, they ran mazes during the day, and at night, their brain activity, recorded during sleep, echoed the same patterns, as if they were running the maze again in their dreams, practicing, replaying, learning. Sleep became a rehearsal, and maybe that's what your dreams are too. You think of your own, not the wild, surreal ones, but the quiet ones, the dreams where you retrace steps, speak old words, walk through places you haven't seen in years. Your mind, working through what it cannot always solve by day. It's not just memory, it's survival. Dreams help animals adapt, anticipate, prepare. Birds show REM sleep during migration. Their dreams may help them navigate, calibrate, find their path through dark skies. Dogs, twitching in their beds, might be rehearsing the chase, practicing speed, testing reflex. And what of the octopus when she flares with color, mid-sleep? Is she recalling the coral, hunting in her mind, or just creating something no one has ever seen before? You'll never know, but you suspect it matters, because even in the safety of sleep, the world can be dangerous, and dreaming allows a brain to stay engaged, alert, evolving. Some scientists believe that dreams are simulations, a way to test scenarios without risk. What if the lion comes from the left? What if the river rises? What if I'm alone? You dream it. Your brain learns, and the next time you're awake, you react faster. Dreams make you faster, smarter, safer, even if you don't remember them. And that's the strange thing you often forget. You wake up with a shadow of something, a color, a face, a feeling, but it slips away. And yet, something inside you has changed. Dreams, even forgotten, leave footprints, emotional ones, psychological ones. They affect your mood, your clarity, your confidence. That's why sleep-deprived people don't just feel tired. They feel unsettled. The dream never came. The rehearsal never happened. Something was missed. So your body keeps trying. It guards REM sleep like treasure. If you lose it one night, you dive deeper the next. You rebound. You make up for it. Because evolution is protective of dreaming. And if that doesn't prove its importance, what does? You think now of young animals, kittens, puppies, baby birds, and how much they sleep. Hours and hours, more than adults. Their brains are soaking in the world, sorting it, building it, and dreaming helps them do it. Even human babies, so new and so small, spend over half their sleep time in REM. They dream more than anyone. They are not wasting time, they are becoming. And what about the other end of life? The elderly dream less or differently. Sleep becomes fragmented. But the dreams they do have, often rich, often meaningful, often vivid, as if the mind, nearing the edge of its journey, has more to say. You remember some of your own dreams now, the ones that made no sense but stayed with you, the ones that felt like warnings, or riddles, or love letters from your unconscious mind. They didn't always help you know more, but they helped you feel more, and that, too, is survival. Because emotions are part of your compass. They steer you, signal you, save you. Dreams help regulate them. You dream of fear and wake lighter. You dream of sorrow and something in you releases. You dream of joy and the world feels just a little softer. Even nightmares serve you. They prepare you, sharpen you. Your mind plays the worst so that you might face the real with steadier breath. It's not always pleasant, but it's always purposeful. And now, as you float through this dream space, a space of colors, instincts, impressions, you begin to understand sleep in a new way. It's not just an escape, it's a practice, a classroom, a mirror, and for the animals, for you, for everyone who carries a brain and a heartbeat, it is sacred, a place to become what you are not yet, a rehearsal for the waking world. And now, gently, you feel the dream begin to settle. The colors grow softer, the edges fade, and something vast and quiet begins to open ahead of you. Not a question, not an answer, just a rhythm, a heartbeat, the rhythm of the earth itself, because long before clocks, before language, before even the first dreams, sleep followed something deeper, the rhythm of the planet, the cradle of the world. You feel it before you see it, the pull of something older, deeper, slower, not just gravity, though gravity is part of it, but a rhythm beneath that, woven into the roots of everything. A lullaby so vast, even the stars seem to lean into it. A cradle, not made of wood or arms or song, but of planet and time. You're floating through it now, not through dreams anymore, but through something that came long before dreams, before animals, before breath. The earth's rhythm, night and day, heat and cool, growth and rest, turn and turn and turn. And somehow, sleep found its place in that turning. You drift over mountain ranges, the snowy crests bathed in silver moonlight, then over deserts where wind carves slow songs into sand, over forests that breathe in mist and breathe out quiet, over oceans that glint like ink. Below you, life sleeps. Not just animals, not just minds. The land sleeps. Trees close their stomata, those tiny mouths on their leaves. Flowers curl in. Roots slow their drinking. Even in the desert, where life clings and hides, plants rest in the cool dark, waiting for the sun's return. You pass coral reefs, glowing faintly in the water. Their polyps retreat by night, tucking into themselves, following a rhythm dictated not by thought, but by the ancient tug of the moon. And the moon, she pulls it all. Tides, cycles, moods, sleep, even your own body, when stripped of clocks and windows, still listens to her, still remembers the old signals, the ebb and flow, the call to rest when light disappears. Your ancestors lived by this rhythm, before lamps, before watches, before alarms. The sun rose and life stirred. The sun set and the world hushed. Fires flickered, stories softened, eyes grew heavy. There was no question of when to sleep. The earth answered that for you, and though the world has changed, cities blinking into night, screens glowing long past dusk, The rhythm hasn't left you. Your body still hears it. Your heart still follows it. Even now, as you lie here, breathing slowly, your cells are keeping time. Hormones rise and fall like tides. Melatonin whispers to your brain, calling you inward. Temperature drops, muscles loosen, thoughts drift. The planet is rocking you. You feel the roundness of the world beneath you, the softness of its rotation, not spinning fast, but turning gently, endlessly, a motion you can't feel but somehow trust. And in that motion, sleep was born. It wasn't invented. It emerged from cycles, from patterns, from the need to pause, to balance, to heal. Everything on earth knows this. Bacteria rest, mold pauses. Even the stones, though they don't sleep, change with time and light. You pass a field now, covered in frost. Mice sleep beneath the ground. Owls perch in silent thought. The grass is still, but its roots pulse with slow activity. Then a lake, smooth as glass, reflects the stars. Beneath it, frogs sleep in mud. Fish float motionless. Algae bloom in pulses. Then a volcano, sleeping too, for now. Sleep isn't always gentle. Sometimes it's a deep, smoldering weight, a stillness before renewal, and the earth itself sleeps in layers. Winter, drought, darkness, periods of quiet followed by bloom, song, chaos. Even in her seasons, she knows how to rest. You think of how many rhythms you belong to, your heartbeat, your breath, your temperature, your thoughts, all syncing unconsciously to the planet's older music. You are not separate from nature. You are nature wrapped in awareness. You sleep not on the earth, you sleep with it. And that knowing, it softens you, because even if your life is loud, even if your days are long, even if the world tries to pull you into endless motion, the earth itself still invites you to rest. She has never stopped, and now you feel that invitation arrive, not a command, not a demand, just a gentle reminder that sleep is not a failure, not a weakness, not a delay. It is your body saying, I remember the rhythm, and as your breath grows deeper, your limbs heavier, your thoughts thinner, you realize something else. You are not alone. Right now, across the world, millions, billions of other creatures are sleeping too, curled in nests, floating in currents, perched on wires, buried in sand, wrapped in fur, tucked in beds, dreaming, healing, rehearsing, trusting. The earth holds them all, and she holds you too. You who began this night with a question. What's the strangest way animals use sleep to survive? You, who wandered through oceans and trees and tunnels and skies. You, who saw how every shape of life finds its own answer. And now, it's time. Time to leave the question behind. Not to solve it, but to live it. To feel it in your own slow heartbeat. In your own drifting thoughts. In your own surrender. The rhythm is here, and you are part of it. You are lying very still now. The world has grown quiet, not empty, but full of softness. The kind of quiet that holds things. Breath, weight, warmth, memory. The quiet that doesn't demand anything of you. Not anymore. It simply waits, like a blanket turned down beside a fire. You've arrived at the edge of sleep, the true edge, not the kind you hover near during the day, not the restless sort that flickers like a candle in the wind. This is the deep threshold, the one you only reach after long listening, after moving through many shapes, many stories, many slow and secret lives. You've walked with creatures who sleep in halves, who soar while dreaming, who wrap themselves in bubbles, who shut one eye, who barely sleep at all, and in every one of them, you've seen some reflection of yourself, your rhythms, your instincts, your pauses. Now, nothing moves except your breath, and maybe somewhere beneath your rib cage, a thought the size of a feather, one that drifts, then vanishes. There's no need to chase it. Let it go, because you've wandered far tonight, across oceans and deserts and snowy dens, through coral reefs and underground tunnels, past the blinking eye of a lizard and the flash of an octopus dreaming. You've watched sleep in motion, sleep in stillness, sleep as strategy, sleep as surrender, and through it all, you've been carried by a single, shimmering thread, the idea that rest is not weakness, it is wisdom. The kind of wisdom that doesn't speak, but settles, that doesn't argue, but unfolds. You might still be thinking, that's okay. The brain doesn't shut down like a switch. It floats, it flickers, it settles in layers. But already, you can feel it, the beginning of the fade. Words blur, images wobble, you're drifting. The line between waken and sleep is thin now, not a wall, but a veil, a soft one you can pass through without even noticing. And on the other side, nothing you need to prepare for, nothing to perform, only rest. The kind of rest your body has been waiting for, the kind of rest that wraps around you like a story you've already heard before but want to hear again. Even now, the creatures you've met are still out there. The swift, still riding winds. The bear, still dreaming beneath snow. The ants, passing stillness like a secret. The parrotfish, tucked into her shining cocoon. The dolphin, circling through moonlit water with one half of her mind adrift. And you? You are part of this too, not a visitor anymore. Not just an observer, but a sleeper, a dreamer, a creature wrapped in your own quiet rhythm. The earth has folded her arms around you. Her breath is your breath. Her silence is your lullaby. And somewhere beneath all that, the answer to your question still lingers like a ripple. What's the strangest way animals use sleep to survive? You've seen the answer bloom in many forms. You've seen it swim, soar, hibernate, flicker, flutter, and vanish. And now, the strangest answer of all, you sleep. With all your complexity, with all your thoughts, with your fragile humanness, with your heavy mind, you sleep. Because survival isn't always fierce. Sometimes it's soft. And sleep is the softest survival of all. So go now, let the breath deepen, let the edges blur, let the world fall away. You don't need to hold on anymore. You've followed the story. You've felt the rhythm. Now let it carry you down and down and down into that quiet place where even thoughts go still, where the animals are waiting, where your dreams begin, where nothing must be done except rest. And when morning finds you again, gently, quietly, like sun on water, you'll rise, you'll remember maybe or maybe not, but the rhythm will remain, and it will be enough.